So go ahead and get comfortable in your seat, but in a way that you're able to sit fairly upright and not slump and fall asleep. We'll start with 3 deep breaths to begin. In and out. In and out. In and out. Go ahead now and just breathe normally, naturally. You don't have to try and stretch out your breath or make your breath sharp. Just let it come in a very relaxed manner if you can. Just feeling your belly rise as you breathe in and fall as you breathe out. And feel the weight of your body in your chair, your feet on the floor, your hands in your lap. You can tuck your chin in slightly so that your head is balanced on top of your neck and shoulders. Go ahead and close your eyes either all the way or just halfway if you feel comfortable with that. And we just return to watching the breath. Belly rising as you breathe in, falling as you breathe out. Rising as you breathe in, and falling as you breathe out. I was thinking about how it's most basic. This practice is about watching and seeing your breath just as it is, seeing our thoughts, our bodily sensations, and we see clearly without trying to judge. Judgment is something that clouds our seeing. If we're harsh with ourselves, saying we're not breathing properly, we're not doing this right or that right, we can't see what's really going on, what's true and real. And that's part of what this practice is really about. You see broadly, not just what you see with your eyes, what you know with your mind, with your body, what you hear with your ears. What we hope is that we can look at each thing, each new thing that happens, or each new thing we see, as though we're seeing it for the very first time. The same way we look at that breath. Our belly rises as we breathe in, fall as we breathe out. And we begin to see that each breath is different from the last and different from the next. Each one is new and fresh. So often people come to this and think what this is about is being able to stop thinking, to become completely quiet. And I think we imagine what that means too is that we aren't bothered by sounds. We don't pay any attention to those things. We aren't bothered by itches. But if we really want to live our life, to see what's going on clearly, we need to look at each thing as though we've never seen it before. So often, I think one place we do this is with people. We meet someone and believe within 5 minutes we know what category to put them in, what kind of person they are, how they remind us of our brother or our uncle, our ex-wife or ex-husband who we don't like, so we just are going to not like that person. We've made our minds up and we already know exactly who they are before we've even spoken with them. And we do that with so many things. When you begin to slow yourself down, to watch each breath, you can see how you are with each new thing that comes. In the same way we can judge the breath, we judge each new thing. Forgetting too that even those people we know, if we are convinced we know exactly who they are, we don't give them any room to change, any ability to surprise us. I think one thing that got me thinking about this was this morning. After a winter with no more than an inch at a time of snow all winter long, we had one of those good old-fashioned 4 inches of snow mornings with the sun out, the snow sparkling and blindingly white. And there's something about an overnight rainfall or an overnight snowfall that really makes it seem as though the whole world is all new again. And by slowing down, by watching our breath, by attending to our breath and caring for it, paying attention, that's a way we can learn to pay attention to our friends, our family, strangers, to a snowy, sunlit morning. And part of our makeup is to categorize things because we think it's too overwhelming to look at each thing as new, to continually be opening our eyes to see what's brand new right in front of us. And the unfortunate thing then that happens when we don't open ourselves up to those things is that we get so very used to things. And there's a part of us that likes that. We're used to breathing. We're used to the thoughts we have. We can even get used to difficult thoughts. Perhaps we feel more comfortable with those than happy thoughts or pleasant thoughts. We get to like what's familiar. We also get very used to how things are. They talk of if you put a frog into a pot of boiling water, it will try and leap out. If you put it in a pot of water and then slowly start to bring it to boiling, the frog doesn't realize that things are getting hotter and worse, and it ends up dying. And we do the same when we just get used to things. I'll share with you one of the reasons I'm thinking of this is having had eye surgery for a cataract yesterday. And when I woke up, I couldn't believe how bright the day was. I wondered, is this just the snow or is this the difference in being able to see clearly again? And I've only had one eye done, so I can go back and forth. I can close my new eye and see with the old one where the colors are dull and gray. And I can look with the new eye and see how bright things are, how colorful they are. And it just taught me how we do get so accustomed to things, never questioning if things are different. We just assume the world is gray and dull. We just assume that life is hard, so we never give it any room to change. And I was thinking, even now, seeing how things are so bright and beautiful, will I soon get to the point of not paying attention to that either? I'm not realizing how green my cat's eyes are, how bright that red rose is on the table. Begin again taking things for granted, thinking I know everything, that I've seen this all before. I think there are two things then that we can get used to. We learn this again with paying attention to our thoughts as we watch our breath. We can get accustomed to how bad things are. In fact, some of us prefer that. We've been going through 4 tough years in this world. Between the pandemic, political upheaval around the world, worries about democracy surviving, that we just get numb to that. But I think it's important that we want to stay clear in seeing what's happening. Clear both in seeing the ugliness, the suffering, and clear in seeing that it's also balanced out by beauty, by bright, shiny mornings. Many years ago, they did studies on people that had done lots of meditation. And one of the things they did was to monitor their brain waves while they were meditating. And then they'd introduce a sharp, annoying sound in the room where they were sitting and watch to see what happened with their brain waves. And of course, for any of us, our brain responds usually to that noise, that we don't like it, or our brain waves go spike up, we're disturbed by it. But for most of us, if we're sitting in a room and you keep making that sound, it's again that story of becoming accustomed to it. People get to the point where that same sound, the same loudness, doesn't do anything to them. You don't see them responding. And there again, I think some of us think that's what this practice is about, that we don't let anything enter into us or disturb us. But they found that people who were really experienced meditators, each time that sound came up, their brain responded as though it was the first time it had heard it. It's also important to note they continued sitting still and quiet. But what I take from that is they were dealing with each sound, each perception, everything that came their way as though it was brand new. Not coming to think, I already know about this, I'm going to shut it out. We get accustomed, as we said, to things being difficult. It seems to prove to us what we've already believed, that the world is a brutal, terrible place that will never be happy. At least then we don't have to worry about what we'll do if we actually find ourselves happy. And it's interesting. When we did loving kindness meditation a couple of weeks ago, we were experimented with that feeling of opening up our hearts, seeing just how large they can be, how they can hold everybody we care about, all the things that matter to us in this world. Our heart is big enough to hold all of those. And I think it's interesting that we have a phrase both for suffering and difficulty and for beauty, that it feels like we're overwhelmed, that our heart just can't take anymore, that our heart is filled with it. I would say if you can work at this, at breathing, being still, looking at each thing as if you're seeing it for the first time, that you can remain not disturbed But you can make room for all of those things, whether it's beauty, without feeling all the feelings that I don't deserve this will just go away anyway. Or with difficulties. The world is a terrible place. Nothing good ever happens. Instead, you can meet each thing as if for the first time. And I would say that when the world is struggling, when the world is almost feels as though it's on fire as it is right now, the world really needs people that can see things clearly, that can see what's beautiful and see what should be saved, what should be taken care of, what should be appreciated. And we can see what's difficult, what's aggressive, what causes suffering, and do what we can to change those things. The world needs those clear-eyed people. The great mindfulness teacher Thich Nhat Hanh would always tell the story of when he was in Vietnam many years ago. The war was still going on. And some of you may remember this, some may not, but there were what they called the boat people who were trying to escape the war. They'd climb into boats, sometimes they were barely safe. They'd load them up with people. They'd sail out into storms and bad weather and try to reach a calm place. Thich Nhat Hanh said oftentimes they'd come against a storm, or they'd come against high waves or bad seas. And he said if there was one person, just one person who could remain calm and demonstrate that to the other people on the boat, they would usually make it safely to better places. But if there was not that place, not that person, everybody would panic and many lives would be lost. And I think by being that person who's calm, who sees things clearly, we can be that calm person. The world needs more and more of us right now. And you can begin just by looking at each breath as though it's the first breath you've ever taken, because it's certainly new to you this time. And to take a cookie and to eat that as though you've never had a cookie so good before. To look at a friend, a family member, see them for who they are, but not to believe you know them. See and accept who they are, and give them the possibility of changing. Because especially when you see things in this way, coming and going, rising and falling like the belly does with our breath, you begin to see that change and impermanence really is the hallmark of this world and this life. And sometimes we ignore that and forget that. We want things to stay forever, so we just imagine that they will. But that locks things in, it locks people in. If we can open up and see that things are changing all the time, life can be an adventure for one thing. You never know what you'll meet the next moment. I would say too that change is the one thing that gives us hope and that gives us possibility. That if everything is changing, we can't get away with saying, it's always going to be this way. I'm not going to try and do anything to make things better. Because we know things can always change. can help to be part of that change and move it along. So try that tonight when you eat supper. Eat as though you've never had a chili dog or fried rice or a bowl of cereal before. Just taste it. See it for the first time. Enjoy it. Or not. You can say, I'm tasting this though it's for the first time and I don't think I really like Rice Krispies. And then buy something else the next time. At least experiment with it. Try that tonight with your meal. Or try it when you go home and see your roommate, your spouse, or your friend. As though you're meeting them for the very first time. And who knows what they'll do or say. Who knows what could happen with your relationship. There's always that hope of change. And we see it with the breath. As our belly rises as we breathe in, falls as we breathe out. Each breath is new, wonderful. Each breath is a miracle. Each breath means we're alive into the next moment. It's sweet and calming. As your belly rises as you breathe in, and falls as you breathe out. So go ahead now and take 3 deep breaths. And when you're ready, open your eyes.